I'm taking this risk because I believe in my work, but because it's an auction, you just never know.
The house where I was at was all decorated up like a little old town, and we restored stuff on a small scale.
American Restoration was more than a show. It was a phenomenon. Millions tuned in week after week to watch Rick Dale and his crew transform decades-old Harley-Davidsons, vintage soda machines, and slot machines into gleaming pieces of history. Fans laughed at the banter, marveled at the craftsmanship, and followed the journey of a family shop that felt like their own. But behind the cameras, something was quietly unraveling. American Restoration officially ended after this one particular line was crossed. Today, we unveil the shocking truth. From craftsman to TV star, where Las Vegas hums with neon and the clang of slot machines, one quiet shop stood as a portal to the past. Rick Dale, a man whose hands had learned the secrets of metal and paint long before most kids knew how to ride a bike, ran Rick's Restorations, a small workshop tucked away in the city's less glamorous corners. Here, he chased history and the revival of objects long forgotten. Gas pumps from the 1940s, jukeboxes that hadn't played a note in decades, Harley-Davidsons covered in rust. Each piece arrived like a sleeping giant, and Rick had the rare skill to wake it. Rick's first brush with television came in 2009. Pawn Stars, the History Channel's new reality hit that followed Rick Harrison and his Las Vegas pawn shop, needed an expert for vintage items. When a battered 1950s Coca-Cola machine or an antique barber chair came in, Rick Dale was the man they called. His first appearance in an episode titled Time Machines was brief, almost incidental. But something remarkable happened. Viewers were captivated not just by the item, but by the process of restoration itself. Here was a craftsman who could speak in metal and paint. His hands seemed to know every dent, every scratch, every faded letter. It didn't take long for History Channel executives to see potential. On October 25, 2010, American Restoration premiered, putting Rick and his Las Vegas shop at the center of a new television universe. Unlike the flashy, conflict-driven reality shows that dominated cable, this series offered something rarer: authenticity. Rick wasn't auditioning for the camera. He was a craftsman performing the work he had been doing for decades. His team wasn't a cast. They were actual family and friends. His wife, Kelly, ran business operations, while his son, Tyler, was being groomed to inherit the shop. Ron, Rick's brother, worked as a picker, sourcing the hidden treasures that would arrive battered, broken, or forgotten. Other crew members included Brettley, Rick's stepson, and Cowboy, a metal polishing expert. Together, they formed a family unit, and that familial chemistry translated on screen. Each episode was a new puzzle. One week, Rick might be dismantling a 1946 Harley-Davidson, painstakingly repairing its engine, and polishing chrome until it reflected Las Vegas's blinding lights. The next, he could be restoring a vintage Coca-Cola machine, painstakingly mixing colors to match the original paint, replacing every screw, every gasket, every tiny component with fidelity to the past. Antique barber chairs, slot machines, jukeboxes, even a NASA helmet. No object was too obscure, no restoration too intricate. At any given time, Rick's shop juggled 6 to 12 projects simultaneously, each one with its own timeline, its own technical challenges, and its own story waiting to be told. The show's appeal went beyond the machines. It was a window into a world of craftsmanship that most viewers had never seen, combined with a human story. A father mentoring his son, a stepson mastering sandblasting techniques, a gruff metal polisher whose perfectionism clashed with his own temperament. Celebrity clients soon noticed. Billy Joel, Sammy Hagar, Jason Mraz, illusionists Lance Burton and David Copperfield, and NASCAR driver Greg Biffle all brought items to Rick's Restorations, seeking the rare blend of historical accuracy and artistry that Rick and his team delivered. One episode, Pick, Pawn and Polish drew a whopping 6.5 million viewers, a record for the History Channel at that time. By its peak, American Restoration averaged around 2.9 million viewers per week and aired in over 87 countries. Rick Dale's rise from a quiet Las Vegas craftsman to an internationally recognized television figure was rapid but grounded. There were no gimmicks, no manufactured drama, just skill honed over decades. A shop that had become a hub for vintage Americana, and a team whose loyalty and expertise matched Rick's own. By the end of 6 seasons, Rick Dale had become not only a household name, but also a symbol of craftsmanship preserved under the bright, relentless lights of Las Vegas. His journey from local craftsman to television star was complete, but it had been built on a foundation of integrity, family, and an unshakable dedication to the art of restoration. But behind the scenes, something else was unfolding. Tensions between craft and television. By the middle of American Restoration's run, the growing tension between the purity of craft and the demands of television could no longer be ignored. Seasons 1 through 4 had established a rhythm. Viewers tuned in to watch rusted Harley-Davidsons, soda machines, and slot machines return to life under Rick's hands, guided by decades of experience and a genuine love for the work. By 2013, however, cracks were beginning to show. The show averaged 2.9 million viewers per episode internationally, airing in over 87 countries, but with attention came pressure, and History Channel executives were increasingly focused on one metric above all: engagement. For them, nothing else mattered. The first whispers of tension came from small shifts in episode structure. Early seasons had shown the full restoration process, often spanning multiple days, with meticulous attention to detail. Viewers learned how Rick sourced rare parts, matched decades-old paint colors, and restored mechanical systems without erasing the history embedded in the objects. Industry professionals, including metalworkers, restorers, and antique collectors, praised the show for its authenticity. One electronic service engineer specializing in vintage videotape recorders noted that Rick's work preserved original mechanisms and subtle details that most restorers would miss. But as the show's popularity grew, the network's expectations began to diverge from Rick's approach. Producers started pushing for faster timelines, emphasizing dramatic reveals and interpersonal conflict over technical explanations. Scenes that once followed the methodical repair of a 1946 Harley-Davidson were now punctuated with staged arguments or playful teasing among crew members designed to mimic the tension of scripted television. These changes were part of a broader strategy by Left Field Pictures, the same company behind Pawn Stars, to ensure the content aligned with the reality TV formula that had proven successful elsewhere. Fans noticed. Online forums and review sites filled with commentary from loyal viewers. "I don't care who bought a dog or who gets in trouble at school. I came here to watch restorations," wrote one frustrated audience member in 2014. Another added, "I want to see the gears, the polish, the history, not grown men bickering about nothing." Professional restorers were even more critical, pointing out that compressed timelines could compromise the integrity of the work. Restoring complex machinery, like a 1950s slot machine or a 1920s jukebox, requires patience and careful problem-solving. When forced to meet arbitrary deadlines for the camera, even a master like Rick could feel constrained. Creative differences escalated behind the scenes. According to insiders, producers began dictating which customers would appear on the show, setting up scenarios and controlling pricing and project selection. Rick's role slowly shifted from craftsman to performer, with less authority over the actual business decisions he had made for decades. He was effectively working on his own projects, but under someone else's script, one source revealed. The juxtaposition was stark. Rick had spent a lifetime developing a meticulous craft. Yet on screen, the artistry was increasingly secondary to entertainment. The crew, too, felt the shift. As the cameras rolled deeper into later seasons, the shop floor at Rick's Restorations began to feel less like a quiet workshop and more like a stage with marks taped on the floor. Brettley Otterman, Rick's stepson, quickly became one of the show's comic engines, and several episodes made a point of amplifying that role. During a Season 3 storyline centered on restoring a vintage ice cream maker and later a 1950s gas pump, the sandblasting booth became a recurring set piece. The camera lingered on Brettley struggling with the blasting hose, coughing through dust clouds, or joking about destroying the object entirely. In reality, sandblasting is a routine and controlled step in metal restoration, but episodes often framed it as chaos. Producers repeatedly cut to reaction shots of Rick grimacing or shaking his head, while Brettley exaggerated frustration or panic. The tension was played for laughs, but the framing shifted attention away from the technical process toward personality-driven comedy. Cowboy, whose real name is Ron Dale and who had decades of hands-on experience with fabrication and welding, became the opposite archetype. Where Brettley was comic relief, Cowboy was positioned as the irritable perfectionist. During the restoration of a vintage Pepsi cooler and later a classic neon sign project, scenes showed Cowboy criticizing measurements, muttering about shortcuts, and walking away mid-discussion. In fabrication work, disagreements over measurements and methods are common and often collaborative, but the show leaned into editing that emphasized friction. Conversations that likely unfolded over hours of problem-solving were compressed into tense exchanges lasting seconds. The result was a character defined by stubbornness rather than the highly skilled metalwork he contributed to nearly every large project. Tyler Dale, Rick's son, often appeared in the middle of this dynamic. As a trained fabricator who had grown up in the shop, Tyler represented the next generation of the business. Episodes involving the restoration of a 1940s pedal car and a vintage fire engine spotlighted moments where Rick insisted on redoing work to meet his standards. The show frequently juxtaposed those moments with tight deadlines or budget pressures mentioned by producers within the narrative. Tyler was portrayed as the bridge between his father's uncompromising approach and the show's need for urgency and conflict. Kelly Dale, Rick's wife, and the shop's business manager faced a different kind of tension. Episodes involving large-scale restorations, such as classic vending machines or rare jukeboxes, regularly highlighted scheduling challenges. Kelly appeared to negotiate deadlines, juggling customer expectations, and managing budgets while filming schedules hovered in the background. Reality television production is tightly planned, with crews, lighting, and multiple cameras dictating when and how work can happen. Scenes occasionally showed Kelly reminding Rick about delivery dates or financial constraints. The portrayal reinforced the idea that while Rick pursued perfection, Kelly kept the business running and the show moving forward. One recurring storytelling pattern involved compressing weeks of meticulous work into a few dramatic days. For instance, when the team restored neon signage or complex coin-operated machines, episodes often introduced a last-minute problem just before delivery. This narrative device heightened suspense, but also created situations where staff appeared under pressure from both craftsmanship standards and television timelines. The audience saw urgent phone calls, tense meetings, and dramatic countdowns, even though real restoration projects can take months of careful planning and execution. These editing choices reflected broader trends in reality television during the early 2010s. Networks increasingly prioritized character-driven storytelling to maintain viewer engagement across seasons. By Season 4 and Season 5, the emphasis on interpersonal dynamics had noticeably grown. Dialogue segments became longer, reaction shots more frequent, and the workshop itself more structured around filming logistics. For the Dale family, this balance between authenticity and storytelling became part of daily life. The shop still handled real clients and real artifacts, yet each restoration now unfolded alongside production schedules, scripted beats, and the need for narrative arcs. What viewers saw on screen was a curated version of real work, shaped by the demands of television pacing and audience expectations. Over time, the characters audiences came to know: Bretley, the jokester; Cowboy, the perfectionist; Tyler, the mediator; and Kelly, the organizer, were shaped as much by editing rooms as by the workshop floor. Their roles reflected genuine personalities and relationships, but the spotlight increasingly focused on drama and humor, rather than the slow, methodical craft that first drew viewers to the series. The pressure wasn't just creative, it was operational. The shop still handled 6 to 12 projects at a time, but now each one had a camera schedule, producer notes, and scripted dialogue layered over the real work. Despite these challenges, Rick Dale attempted to maintain the essence of the craft that had made the show successful. He remained committed to restoring items accurately, educating viewers whenever possible, and mentoring his team. However, the tension between television demands and genuine restoration continued to grow. By season 6, the contrast was undeniable. Viewers saw less of the detailed process and more of staged interactions, prompting complaints from both fans and professionals alike. On one side, there was the opportunity to reach millions worldwide, elevate the profile of Rick's restorations, and collaborate with celebrities like Billy Joel, Sammy Hagar, and David Copperfield. On the other hand, there was the creeping compromise of control over his own work and the very principles that had built his reputation. By late 2014, after 6 seasons, the tension had reached a breaking point. Rick Dale had proven that authentic craftsmanship could draw audiences globally. Yet the network's drive for drama and speed increasingly threatened the core of what made American restoration special. The stage was set for a showdown: Rick Dale's departure and the Season 7 reboot. By late 2014, the pressures of reality television had been mounting for seasons, and the clash between craft and network control had reached its peak. Rick's decision not to return for Season 7 was the culmination of years of mounting creative tension. He had grown frustrated with network demands for scripted drama, faster restoration timelines, and more producer control over both projects and clients. What had started as an authentic showcase of craftsmanship had been gradually reshaped into something that felt foreign to him. A show where interpersonal conflicts and staged tension often took center stage over the meticulous work he and his crew had perfected. The History Channel, however, was determined to keep the brand alive. With Rick's departure confirmed, they reimagined American restoration entirely. The network opted for a Season 7 premiere on January 1st, 2016, introducing a new format that shifted the focus from one central Las Vegas shop to 5 different restoration businesses across the United States. These included Bodie Stroud in California, Dale Wachsler in Ohio, Andy Bowman Jr. in New York, Steve Hale in Michigan, and Bob Halliday in New Jersey. Each owner had their own shop, style, and specialty, but the network believed that multiple locations would inject fresh energy and variety into the series. What History Channel failed to anticipate was how much of the show's appeal had depended on the intimate, familial atmosphere of Rick's workshop. Seasons 1 through 6 had been as much about watching a team evolve together as they were about restoring objects. Fans had grown attached to the personalities of Tyler, Bretley, Ron, and Cowboy. They had laughed at the banter, empathized with the frustrations, and celebrated the triumphs of each finished restoration. The new format, however, lacked this cohesion. Episodes bounced between 5 unrelated shops, projects, and personalities, destroying the narrative continuity that had made the original series compelling. Where viewers had once seen careful instruction, mentorship, and familial dynamics, they were now presented with segmented snippets of restoration projects, stripped of context or connection. Audience reaction was immediate and overwhelmingly negative. Online forums, review sites, and social media lit up with complaints from longtime fans. One viewer wrote, "I was in shock. No connection to the audience. focused mainly on vehicles and over multiple garages. Jump, jump, jump on the project. Someone should have been fired in management for changing everything. Another admitted, "I really didn't like any of the new people here and came close to turning it off. I'll give it one more before throwing the switch." The show's signature diversity of projects was replaced largely by vehicles, cars, trucks, and motorcycles. Viewers criticized the repetitive focus, noting that the History Channel already offered automotive restoration programming through Counting Cars, leaving the reboot feeling redundant. Even with high production values and celebrity clients, the reboot could not replicate the magic of Rick Dale's era. Episodes featured intriguing restorations, like George Clinton bringing in a 1920s piano, or David Copperfield requesting items for his museum collection. NASCAR connections with Kyle Busch and Marcus Smith appeared, commissioning trophies for the History 300 race. Yet none of these additions compensated for the absence of Rick's leadership, the familiar crew, and the engaging narrative arcs that had drawn audiences for 6 seasons. The ratings told a stark story. Season 7 struggled to retain the loyal fan base, and after just 3 months, by April 1st, 2016, the History Channel canceled the series. The ambitious reboot had failed. Life after television. After 6 seasons of global fame, celebrity clients, and non-stop production pressure, Rick faced a stark choice: chase another television deal or walk away and reclaim his craft. He chose craftsmanship over cameras. The shift was dramatic. Instead of juggling a dozen restorations at once under tight filming deadlines, Rick stepped into a quieter world of one-off commissions. He reinvented himself as a metal artist and fabricator, focusing on smaller, deeply personal projects where precision mattered more than ratings. The man who once worked under studio lights returned to the slower rhythm of welding, polishing, and storytelling through metal. The transformation spread through the family. Kelly Dale, once the backbone of Rick's restorations operations, redirected her skills into Las Vegas real estate, turning TV recognition into a new career. Tyler Dale expanded his craft beyond the show, building expertise in woodworking and fabrication while starting a family life of his own. Meanwhile, Brett Lee Otterman took perhaps the boldest leap, launching CleanWorks mobile media blasting with 3 active rigs. Rick never fully disappeared. He resurfaced online, sharing projects on Instagram and launching learnfromrickdale.com, offering training sessions and Q&As for devoted fans. Yet, the original Rick's Restoration Shop, the heart of the series, remains closed. Still, the legacy refuses to fade. Early seasons introduced millions to vintage restoration, inspiring hobbyists and professionals worldwide. Celebrity projects and rare artifacts became cultural touchstones. In the end, Rick Dale didn't lose his story. He rewrote it. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? If you did, please consider liking, dropping a comment, and hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our new uploads. Also, don't miss this video you see on your screen right now. It's truly unbelievable.